Well, here I'm going to talk about the removed cards from Prosperity. In my Prosperity review, I meant to make a joke. I was trying to make like a joke about each of the first to second edition transitions. I think I managed on Seaside to say something about embargo, but with Prosperity, I was going to try to make the joke that if somebody is trying to sell you the first edition cards, they're probably some kind of charlatan. There we go. Anyways, or maybe it was Mountebank. It was supposed to be one of the two. In any case, you're gonna see Mountebank later. Let's just go on and move on to what's missing. Loan. I mean, Loan was fine strength-wise. It's just kind of boring and maybe frustrating. Loan was a copper trasher. It actually didn't work particularly well, I guess, with the Prosperity theme because, Loan as a copper trasher, you didn't really want to be working with other treasures. You wanted to trash out your copper with Loan, and if you had other treasures, those could get in the way. In general, I guess Loan was just kind of boring. There's better things that you can do to trash coppers, it's maybe direct replacement in Prosperity is investment. You can also argue Crystal Ball, but we'll talk about why it's investment later. Much more exciting way to trash coppers. Can also trash estates, which is always a nice thing. And so, Loan, boring, maybe not the strongest thing ever. Investment, more exciting. You can do better than Loan, and better was done. Trade route. Trade route just sucked. It says trash a card from your hand, which is supposed to make it so that it doesn't just suck, but it did just suck. It was so bad that sometimes you wouldn't actually trash a card from your hand. You wouldn't trash because the trashing was trade route. That's how bad it was. It doesn't really work as plus buy either because it has this trash a card from your hand on it, and so that's not actually a net plus buy. Maybe you could use it because you didn't trash with trade route and now it's going to give plus buy and you still have a bunch of crap lying around to trash for plus buy, but no, you just didn't get it. I also say it's kind of unintended because if you get past the plus buy and trash card from your hand, this whole rest of the part's about player interaction. Something about victory cards and it increases in coinage or whatever. But people don't buy victory cards early, so you didn't actually get this +1 coin that was promised for you. And then, if you're not actually buying trade route, this player interaction that's supposed to be happening doesn't actually happen, which is kind of no good. In any case, trade route is gone. If you want a replacement, literally any card that trashes, was better than trade route. And so, that's basically its replacement is literally any card that trashes. Talisman, weak. It could do some interesting stuff at times, there are these tower rushes, towers and empires, but, it's pretty restrictive because, when you play a Talisman, you basically have to be buying something that costs 4 or less and you have to be getting a copy of it, otherwise you're not getting real value out of the Talisman. It got most directly replaced by Anvil, which, first of all, Anvil also gives 1 coin. It does make you discard a treasure, which can reduce the coinage in your hand a little bit, but you get to gain something costing up to 4, so, it's a 4 gainer, just like Talisman. But without the other problems, you can get something different with your buy, and the thing that you buy can't cost more than 4, which is a really nice thing because things that cost more than 4 tend to be better than things that cost 4 or less. And so, Talisman, weak, gone, replaced, all good. Contraband, weak. Has a very direct replacement in War Chest, which I think is useful for this comparison. War Chest is a decent, it's not amazing, but it's a decent card, whereas Contraband just totally sucked, never buy it. War Chest allows you to gain a card costing up to 5, which if we look at this top part with 3 coins and 1 buy, gain a card costing up to 5 is a lot more +5 coins and +1 buy, so that's kind of better. Contraband also says you can't buy that card this turn, so as you get into the later game, Contraband is just a card that you couldn't play because if you need to score, you need to buy a province, your opponent can just say province and then you can't buy the thing that you need to score. Whereas War Chest, the only restriction is that you can't gain what they're naming with War Chest, and so, you can still play your War Chest, gain something cool off of it and still buy the points you need. And so War Chest is just better all around. Contraband stunk, and gone now. Counting House, so weak. Counting House is just so awful. It had like one really strong combo and one okay combo. The really strong was Traveling Fair. The okay was Night Watchman. Lots of people try to tell you that Counting House could do stuff in other decks, and they're wrong. Like they said they can, but it's like these decks that they get to play because they're not actually playing a competitive opponent. In any case, Counting House's problem is that it says to look through your discard pile and reveal any number of coppers from it. Well, in an ideal world, you don't have a discard pile and you don't have coppers, so that's kind of sucks. It got a replacement in Magnate, which instead of, looking through your discard pile and getting coppers, looks through your hand and looks for treasures, which is a whole lot more likely to happen. Magnate's still not the strongest thing ever, but it sure does a whole lot better than Counting House. Mountebank, this was the one that the joke was about. Charlatan was the direct replacement. I can't remember which way it was supposed to go. I failed to make the joke, so it doesn't really matter. This was Junk City. Gain a curse and a copper. So like each play of this would just like flood the zone with junk. There is this defense thing, but like if you're giving them a curse and a copper, they're actually kind of less likely to have a curse in hand, and it'll just keep going. This is a little bit swingy. Mostly this just turned a lot of games into Mountebank games, which I kind of, I'm kind of good with the embrace the junk games, but a lot of people weren't. So Mountebank is gone. The replacement Charlatan, I guess you can see, kind of combines the curse and the copper, though it is a huge drop off in strength. Like Mountebank was a thing that you would get in games with Mountebank because it was that strong. Whereas Charlatan, maybe not so much. The closest thing that maybe most closely resembles Mountebank games is actually something in Rising Sun of Prophecy called Bureaucracy, where it's like flood the zone with junk, in this case copper, where you really have to stay on top of stuff and work through it, or you have to embrace the junk, one of the two, and you kind of get those games back, which is a nice thing to have. Royal Seal. Royal Seal was bad. Like it cost 5 and it gives you 2 coins, and almost, it's hard to put other things on it that aren't like a plus buy or whatever, that make you want that. In this case, it's top decking. Top decking is not actually a particularly strong effect. Royal Seal's direct replacement, Tiara, has top decking on it too, which is better, but the reason that Tiara actually works is because it doesn't cost 5, it costs 4, and it doesn't just give you 2 coins. Like, you cannot really justify buying this over 5 other 5 costs, which tend to be much more effective. Instead, Tiara gives a buy and it doubles some treasure, which, that's gonna basically be +1 buy. Maybe it's gonna be +3 coins. Maybe, in Prosperity you have Platinum, it's +5 coins, which sure looks a whole lot better than 2 coins. And so, Royal Seal, which sucked, has gotten replaced by something which really doesn't suck. Venture. Venture is weak. This was most directly replaced by Crystal Ball. Loan to Crystal Ball isn't necessarily an upgrade, but if you go loan to investment and then venture to Crystal Ball is definitely an upgrade. So overall, you upgraded. Venture was not good. It has this reveal cards from your deck into reveal a treasure. It's like you don't actually want to have cards in your deck in a good Dominion deck, and so it's like an okay card in bad decks, which is just another way of saying a bad card. It's a long way of saying a bad card. You could build up these venture stacks. They just kind of sucked. It was something you could do, but, venture gone, replaced by Crystal Ball. Crystal Ball trashes. It can play actions. It can do a whole lot more things that you actually want it to do. Last is Goons. Goons has a number of problems. It was replaced by Collection, which has fewer problems, maybe still a couple. But it certainly addresses the issues with Goons. First of all, Goons is swingy. It's a 6-cost discard attack. 6 is kind of a difficult number to reach, so If you put a discard attack out it, you can really, potentially shut down people from reaching it themselves. And so, it could be you get the first goons and then your opponent takes a long time to get their first goons, potentially. It emphasizes kind of bad play patterns. It has this, when you have this in play, when you buy a card, +1 VP. And so, this would have a thing where, like, you would have goons and you would be buying coppers, to get points. And that kind of sucks because, having to buy these bad cards to get points, maybe to save the game, just kind of, stinks. Also not very difficult, so like you could get a bunch of goons out and then you could kind of just explode at the end for a bunch of points, which is, you get that out of Triumph. Most direct replacement is, of course, Collection, which, restricts us to actions and is a treasure and costs less and isn't a discard attack. And then the last thing why it's nice that Goons is gone is that, you can just look at this art. It's not, the most normal thing ever. You have these two, non-obviously as pale-skinned as this dude, trying to do nasty things to him, which is kind of gross to have in a game. In any case, all of these cards in Prosperity, they're gone. We're happy they're gone. They got good replacements. Bye-bye. Never see them again. Forget about them.